Welcome to Chuck Builds. Today I'm going to be doing something a little new, and I'm going to be doing it for the first time, which is installing Proxmox on the mini PC that I previously purchased to install Home Assistant operating system on. I personally use Unraid, but I have seen Proxmox everywhere on the internet, anywhere that you're looking at Docker containers or self-hosted. I can't help but notice people talking about how great Proxmox is, but Proxmox having a free alternative, I'm going to be trying that out here today. So first and foremost, all we're going to need is a USB drive and a computer. So I'll be using this Dell Optiplex PC that I purchased on eBay. It was about $80 with a power cord. This should be plenty. This is a Core i3 7th generation CPU, 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gig SSD, no operating system. I've been hosting my Chuck Builds Home Assistant server on here, and I kind of want to try something else. I'm going to see if I can restore my backup from Home Assistant into this Proxmox container and see if everything comes right back, such as the Zigbee stick, and just see how it goes. I haven't used Proxmox. I'm using this opportunity to learn and try to inform myself, but people have asked how to do it, so I'm going to record my process as well. For a high level of what we're going to do to install Proxmox, I'm going to walk you through this real quick. We are first going to download a tool called Rufus, and we're going to download the image ISO file for Proxmox. Rufus is a tool that will write this ISO image onto a flash drive that we will then take to our computer and boot off of this flash drive. Before we boot, we're going to do some quick BIOS settings, and then we'll boot into the flash drive and follow the instructions to install Proxmox from the flash drive onto your hard drive. And then we will restart the computer, pull out the flash drive, and we'll boot up, and then we'll have the Proxmox interface. On the Proxmox website, there's a quick getting started. There's 3 steps. Proxmox has an image that you can boot off of the USB. We are going to write Proxmox onto the USB to write Proxmox onto the hard drive. And we're going to be trying a different program here today. Previously, I used something called Balena Etcher. Quite a few people have had issues with Balena. I haven't really had that many issues with it, but I'm going to give you an alternative here today, and it's called Rufus. And if you just search for Rufus USB and find this one, real nice website, and we'll grab the latest exe. And we'll just click it to run, and we'll come back over to Proxmox, and we'll click download on the installer. So I'm now going to plug in my flash drive. And it pops right up in Rufus as the only flash drive here. And then we'll click select, and we'll grab this out of our downloads. We've got a warning that it's a ISO hybrid. We'll just go with it anyway. And most of the settings here are grayed out, which is fine. And I'll just click start. All right, so the USB is ready. I will pull it out of the PC and put it into the mini PC. I will then plug in the mini PC and turn it on, and then I will be pressing the key to boot into BIOS as it boots up. In my case, that is F2. So I've got my keyboard, I'm hitting F2. So we are now in our BIOS, and there's a few things we need to change. The first thing that we're going to be looking for is our boot sequence. The second thing we'll be looking for is our secure boot option. Home Assistant OS required that we turn that off, and Proxmox wants us to turn it on. We'll check for virtualization for our Intel processor, and then we'll also change our restore power after AC loss. So if your power goes out, your server can turn back on and hopefully minimize downtime due to a power outage. So the first thing we're looking for here is boot sequence, and we want our USB to be first, and just make sure that your USB boot device is the top of your list. This will be when your computer turns on, and we'll read the USB first, boot into that, install it to the hard drive, and then remove the USB, and it'll continue to boot properly. Secure boot, enable. We want to have this enabled. In order to enable secure boot, I had to go back and disable the legacy ROM option, and then I will save that, go down to secure boot and enable that again. And each time I'm making sure to click apply and save so that I'm sure that the setting is staying. performance, you just want to double check that your turbo boost is on. This will give you some better performance. Power management, we have our AC recovery. I have mine set to last state. So if it was on and the power goes out, turn back on. But if it was off, just sitting in a shelf in my server closet, I don't necessarily need it to turn on every time the power goes out. Virtualization, we want to make sure that we have VT enabled and Intel VT or Intel virtualization technology enabled. This will let us run VMs, higher performance. I think that's it. So I'll come through here and click exit, and it's going to boot to the USB. I'm going to do the terminal UI. I read online that they added graphical. When I first tried this, the graphical did not like this resolution, and I had to plug it into a different monitor. Just for the sake of everybody being on the same page, let's do terminal. I'm going to agree to the license user agreement. I'm going to use my hard disk, which is the only one that I have on this machine, but if you have multiple, you want to make sure you're on the right one. Country, time zone, US English. So now we need to set a login and password, or a recovery email. And remember this password. This is how you're going to log into the user interface. For the internet, I'm going to let it auto-populate. This all looks right. That IP address is available, and the gateway and DNS server addresses are correct. The host name, you can change it now. If you are going to want to change it later, you can't. It's going to break a lot of stuff. So if you don't want it to be pve.localdomain, you need to fix that now. I'm going to leave it Proxmox virtual environment.local domain. That's fine with me. I don't really name my servers. Some people do. So here we have a recap of everything. File type, where it's going, options chosen, login and recovery info, interface, local domain, address, good to go. And I want to make sure that we boot automatically after it's installed. So one thing I want to cover real quick as this wraps up is Proxmox has a enterprise license and then a non-subscription model for consumer use, non-production, not a business. That's what we're going to be using, but by default it uses the enterprise mode and it wants you to register. There is a process you can do to swap that out. I tried to do it myself, and then I found some scripts. So it's rebooting and it just said to remove the media. So I've removed my USB, and now we have our web address to log into on the computer. So switched over to my desktop. We're going to go to https 192.168.86.180, and then our port is 8006. Don't mess up the port, it won't work. And then I did secure, and I guess doesn't have a certificate. If you didn't use the right port, you're going to get no connection, that it's not there. So make sure that you use the port, and then the username is root, and the password is the one that we set during the setup, and then we'll click login. So once we're logged in, we get this warning of no valid subscription. So Proxmox by default installs you to their enterprise level of their software. We don't need enterprise level. We're not a business. We're not going to production. We're not making money off this. And so they do offer a non-subscription model. And I was researching this because this is new to me. There's two ways to get rid of this. One of which, you come to your server, and then we're looking for updates and repositories, and then this enterprise one right here in the middle, this is the enterprise component, and you can remove this and add the non-subscription mode, but apparently it will still prompt you to put in a key after that. When I was researching, I found this guide or scripts online that TTECK wrote, and apparently this is the way to go for installing, especially for noobs. So the first one we want to do is go to the Proxmox VE post install, and we're just going to copy this script, and then we're looking for shell, and then I'm going to paste it as plain text, press enter, And yes, we want to do the post install script. Do we want to update them? Yep. Do we want to disable the enterprise? Yes. Do we want to add the no subscription, the free version? Yes. Do we want to correct some packages? Sure. Do we want to disable the PVE test? So this is like beta branch, I think. So that's fine. Disable the nagging message to remind you to purchase a subscription every time you log in. Yes, please. Support the software's efforts. Check them out for pricing. High availability. Do you want to use a single node? Yeah. So I only have a single node. I don't have multiple nodes for Proxmox. That's kind of the whole thing, is you could have multiple machines or nodes that work together and you can scale as you need it. I only have one, so I'm going to disable high availability and let the script run. And then we'll go ahead and update. That sounds good. So we'll go ahead and restart. Sorry for the abrupt stop. I'm cutting it short. We still have a lot to cover for installing Home Assistant and restoring from a previous backup, but I wanted to kind of stop here just because it seemed the most well-rounded spot to stop for just installing Proxmox. I will have another video coming out of how to install Home Assistant onto Proxmox, but at this time it was just installing Proxmox, how to, and then how to remove the enterprise license key repository. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm still pretty new to Proxmox myself, but I'm pretty impressed so far. I'm not sure I'd recommend this for total noobs, but if you're trying to dive into more containers, VMs, and a little bit more advanced system than what just Home Assistant operating system has to offer, I think this would be a great free place to start. Thanks for watching, and let me know what you think.